we are admonished not to love the sleep. Do not love sleep, otherwise poverty comes upon you. Open your eyes and you will be satisfied with lots of goodies. Okay, I just quoted a famous verse in the book of Proverbs. Okay, when the person who wrote those proverbs wrote them, he was writing this out of natural wisdom. He did not have an understanding into what he was writing. Okay, even in the natural realm, you notice that the people who love to sleep, that is the lazy person, rarely achieves much success in this outer world. Normally, the person who is more hardworking, more diligent, attains to greater heights. Okay, so you can look at this in two lights, in the natural light and in the spiritual light. And of course, the spiritual light is higher, is more profitable. Okay? When you talk of spiritual light, we're talking about the things that pertain to God. Okay, the flesh profited nothing. That is our human existence, human aspiration, human thoughts. See, but exercising ourselves in godliness has lots of profits, eternal profits. Okay, so love not the sleep, because when you are asleep, you lose awareness of reality. You lose awareness of one important thing, and that is, I am the Lord, that is my name. When a man falls deep asleep in his consciousness, he sinks into a type of abyss where there is no knowledge. The abyss is a dark, endless, bottomless pit. Okay, even in the natural world today, you have the deep, you have parts of the ocean, of the deep seas, where men have still not been able to get to. The conditions are so bad. Okay, that is where you see all those strange fishes that look like freaks, strange creatures underneath the sea with lights and all that kind of stuff that live in the deep. Now, all those things are not just there for nothing. They all have a spiritual interpretation. It shows how people sink into deep, deep darkness where there is no life at all. Okay? That is the abyss. That is the uttermost part of the earth. Okay, so all the things we hear today from the inner unction comes to draw us out of that abyss, to gather his people out of the abyss. The dead that are in the sea are vomited out. Okay, what casts people down into the abyss is a loss of awareness, deep sleep. Okay, and when you fall asleep, like I said, you lose that knowledge, that awareness. You lose that excellent knowledge that I am the Lord and there is no one else. Okay? So we are admonished to be watchful, to be awake, alert spiritually, not to be carried away in the realm of mortality where men dwell. Carried away with your human existence. It can only obscure that knowledge that you possess of yourself, that understanding that I am the Lord, that is my name. When you are aware, you will know that I do all things. You will know that I live forever. You will know that I am the King who sits upon Zion. If you are aware, you will know that all things are mine. If you are awake, you will know that there are no twos. If you want to see the Father, here I am. I and the Father are one. But when you are asleep, when you fall into deep sleep, the sleep of death, so to say, what happens is that even that little knowledge that you had from the beginning is lost. You become poor, miserable, wretched. You die off in your transgression. Okay, and you drift away from your bountifulness into that realm of death where you begin to, lack all things. Okay? So every problem a man has is not because a devil is out there chasing you. It's not because, somebody invented a virus and dumped it all over the world. It's not that your husband left you. All those things are just, how do I put it? They are not, that is not the root cause of any problem a man has today. The root cause of every problem a man has today is that he has forgotten. He has slipped away from that awareness. Okay, and in that, while man languishes away in outer darkness, lost from the awareness of his true identity, there's always a voice reaching out to man to pull man out of the realm of death. The unction is always speaking. It's always there, but men are not listening. Okay? The human mind is not aware or able to comprehend that there is a voice that beckons on him day and night, saying, "Hear, O Israel. He who has ears, let him hear." The voice is there in everything. Everything is saying the same thing. From the cock, that crows at dawn, to sunset, there's always that voice saying, "Hear, O Israel." All that the law and the prophet was saying was, hear, listen, be watchful. When Moses came down from Mount Horeb, the message that Moses passed is, "Hear, O Israel. The Lord your God is one. And the Lord your God is in the midst of you all." Hear, O Israel. You cannot hear the law except your ears are open spiritually. You can't hear the law of life, the one and only law of life. If you are dull of hearing, you only just, discern, that probably Moses was talking about creating a religion, forming a religion of sacrifices, of worship, of procedures of men, trying to please an external God. But if you will listen, you will hear him say, "The Lord that you seek is in the midst of you all." The Lord that you seek is in the midst of you all. Hear, O Israel. Hear. If you hear, you will ascend out of your graves, your human graves. Don't you know human consciousness is a graveyard? It might look beautiful on the outer. It might look prosperous. It might look shiny, attractive. But it's all dead stuff. No understanding, no knowledge. The hour comes when you now begin to hear the voice. That voice that has been there from eternity. That voice that now we call the last trumpet is actually the first trumpet. It has always been there. Nothing has ever changed. The only thing that has changed is that man went into deep sleep. And when you are in a state of deep sleep, you can't even see yourself. You can't see yourself. You don't know yourself. You lose awareness. It is death. In the state of death, man now experiences the nightmare of curses and blessings, nightmare of abandonment, nightmares of fear, anxiety. It's all in the dark. It's all there in the dark. This mentality of religion, of worshiping something in the sky, cursing and blessing, all these things is because man is deep asleep, unaware. He's unaware that I am that one spirit that inhabits eternity. So we must, polish our eyes once more. Let the eyes begin to burn like the eyes of the Alpha and the Omega. When the eyes burn like fire, it means that it is awake, active, alive. Praise God. It is active, it is alive, it is aware. That is the power of your saints, of the saints. Discerning eyes, hearing ears. Ears to hear and to know that I am Him. This is what reinvigorates you. It injects life into you. It wakes you out of that realm of the dust where things are dying away and perishing away. It makes you ascend out of that misery of humanity. Ascend out consciously of the realm where the worms don't die, where men are constantly dying and dying and dying away. Have you observed the corpse in a grave? It's not just enough for a man to die and to be buried physically. Observe that even while in the grave, corruption sets in. The eyes get consumed. The tongue gets consumed. The flesh gets consumed. The skin gets consumed. Every liquid within gets consumed. Then gradually it gets to the bones. And the bones get consumed. It's something that is continuous. It's the realm of death. If you like, you can embalm the body. What does it matter? We're speaking here about things of the spirit. When a man is asleep, all awareness is lost that I am the Lord. But if you awake by listening and exercising yourself to listening and conforming to what you hear, the Lord is your great reward in heaven. You can only return back to your throne to rule and to reign once more in perfect peace and in perfect joy. We give an example of the famous parable of the poor Lazarus and the rich man. Okay? The poor Lazarus is the one who exercises himself to listen. He buffets his flesh and he tries to fit into that body, that celestial spiritual body. He buffets his flesh, his human reasoning, lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life. He buffets himself and exercises himself to listen, while the religious dogs mock at him. Anybody who will follow the path of spirituality will suffer ridicule and will suffer persecution. It is to be expected. Never expect that men will throw away their gods, their man-made gods, their invented gods, to believe that they are actually one with the Father. Men will never accept it. Jesus told them, "Is it not written in your word that you are gods?" And they picked up stones to stone him and to put him to death. They do this thinking that they are doing a service to God, not knowing that they are deep asleep, in a transgressive state, so to say, unaware that they are actually one with the eternal God. Is it not written that you are gods, that you are all offsprings of the Almighty? Is it not written that you are the congregation of the Almighty? It is there, but men are not listening. Okay, so they form their own gods and all their whatever, and their religions and everything, and it's all right. And you see, poor Lazarus is there exercising himself in spirituality, in godliness, while the outer man seems to prosper for a season, the rich man. But suddenly something happens. Of course, when I say something happens, always realize that things are always happening again and again. There is somebody that is going higher in ascension, ascending into the Father consciousness, ascending back into God, where he came from. And there is another one who is sinking into the abyss of destruction. It never changes. It has always been like this. Judgment is now, and one generation is ascending into life, and one generation is dying away. The soul that sins shall die, and the soul that practices righteousness shall live. It's a continuous process. There is no day of judgment, a physical day of judgment tomorrow. These are relative terms. That judgment is right now. The poor man dies and is taken up into heaven by angels, into the bosom of the Father. That's Abraham. Okay? So he was taken up. That's the poor man when he dies, in what we call the ascension. Okay, your ascension is you are ascending back into that state, that first state, which is God. I go to the Father, I go to my God. It's all about ascending back into that conscious awareness that I am. Okay? And there's now the second, the rich man who dies and he's buried in the grave. So we see two different types of movement. One ascends, one dies off. Okay, so the poor man is now in paradise, which is actually heaven, which is actually a state of being. Because if I am aware that I am in the Father, I've entered into my rest. If I have known that I am in Him and He is in me, that I am the Almighty, if I have known this, I have awoken consciously to this, I'm in heaven, I'm in paradise. Okay, you can sing heaven, I'm in heaven. Okay? And that is paradise. It's not, it has never been, and will never be a location people go to when they die, you know, where they play and all that kind of stuff, where they have everything in abundance. They have gold mansions. And all those things are just human beliefs. You are in paradise when you realize the truth about yourself. Your striving ceases. Your fear ceases. All power in heaven and earth is given over to me. Okay. So the rich man dies and he's buried. He goes downward. His soul sinks into the pit. And there we know what happens. He's tormented. He's subject to hell and death. And he sees the poor man from afar off. He lifts up his eyes and he sees the poor man from afar off. And apparently there is a kind of gulf, a separation between the poor man who is in hell and the rich man who is in heaven. You see, and it was made clear that there was no way to cross over from one side to another. It must have been very terrible. No way, no understanding, no way to cross over from the part of the grave to heaven. There was a void, impossible to cross over. Okay? And he's tormented. He's tormented even as he beholds poor Lazarus, the one-time poor Lazarus, prosper. And he cannot go across. He can't cross that gulf. That is the state of a man today, who is trapped in his own beliefs. No God, nobody is punishing anybody, nobody is cursing anybody, nobody is casting men into hell, nobody is destroying. All those are just superstition. I do all these things. You are the one who does all things. And you are the one who can possess the key of life and death if you want. You have to possess the key of life and death and open the doors to release yourself out of hell and death. You must understand that nobody cast anybody into hell. The rich man sinks into hell because of lack of understanding, no awareness. He's stripped of understanding. And I will explain why I say this. Now, while suffering and all that, he tells the people in hell that, please, can I send a message to my brothers to warn them, to advert them, so that they don't make the same mistake that I made, so they don't come to hell and suffer like I am suffering? Okay? Now notice that there were 6 of them. The rich man and his brothers were 6. Okay, and this is actually the number of a mortal man. Okay, we're talking of the man of the earth, the man from below, from beneath. Okay, and this man from beneath is actually guided by a spirit that is not of God. He lives by a natural light that is not of God, and he perishes off in this natural light, being unaware of the things that pertain to God. So he begs, please send a messenger to my brothers, my 5 brothers, and tell them to do the right things so that they don't come here. Or tell them to change their ways. And you know what the reply he gets? He says, if they do not hear Moses, neither will they listen to any man, even if he arises from the dead to preach to them. Meaning that there is no way his brothers would have understood the message. There is no way the brothers could have gotten understanding. Because if they do not hear Moses, Moses has already spoken. Moses is the voice of the Spirit that speaks every day, saying, "Hear, O Israel." The law and the prophets were saying, "Hear, O Israel." Everything points to hearing and understanding the mystery of your being. All that Moses and the prophets ever said or did was to testify of the divinity that is embedded within you. Hear. Because if you hear, you can ascend out of this human sense of life and be united with the one spirit that you are with God consciously. Okay, now all the good efforts of men trying to get men to unite, unity, trying to do good things. Look, those things can never work in the flesh. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do good things. It doesn't mean we shouldn't try good things, work out good things. But bear in mind that it is not possible to attain to oneness, the oneness that Moses spoke about, except in God. All these are spiritual messages causing men to discern a spiritual body. the more you hear what the Spirit is saying, okay, because in reality, Moses was trying to relay a spiritual message, but the people could not hear, and the people still do not hear, because there is a veil over the face. And when the veil is over the face, what people see is letters, allegories, burnt offerings, religion. Do this and do this, offer this and offer this, pray this and pray that, worship this way and worship that way, go here and go there. But you are supposed to realize that the Lord is my life, and love the Lord with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, because your neighbor is yourself. There is only one, the Lord. The mystery of oneness is accomplished when the people begin to hear, when consciousness is awoken. Awareness opens the door of heaven. Awareness brings back the power of Alpha and Omega. Awareness stills the raging sea. Awareness brings people out of the graves. Awareness will heal you of all your hurts and all your pains. Awareness drives away all fear. Awareness plants you stable upon Mount Zion throughout eternity. So what we do every day is to meditate on these things and to exercise ourselves in awareness, not being carried away by the present things that we see, but rather staying, put on the precious knowledge of our Lord. The Lord is my life. Okay? The only way Lazarus can annul that, the rich man who is in hell can destroy that gulf and find himself on the other side, is if he were to begin to listen, and spontaneously you find yourself in life. Thank you.